Hi, I'm Dana, and one of the really big things that I've found helpful on my little unmasking, discovering my autism, figuring out who I am journey has been figuring out the sensory seeking things that I did in my childhood, because there's so many times as an adult that I feel just a bit anxious, a bit dysregulated, a bit not quite right. And I've realised that doing something that's like a sensory thing, a stim thing, something that plays into the tism essentially, makes me feel better in those situations. But as an adult, it can be kind of hard to know what kind of things to do. So I've been very much turning back and looking at what I did as a kid and then finding sort of sometimes like the adult versions of them, sometimes just in the same thing I did as a kid, you know? So I wanted to just give you a couple of the things that I did in my childhood that were like my base sensory seeking things before I really had any sort of grasp or understanding of anything. Because I think that that's the place to start a lot of the time, to figure out like what it is you were going for as a kid and being able to incorporate that into your adulthood self. I don't know, it's something I found really helpful. Maybe you will too. Let's just get on with it. So the first one is I had one of those beds that isn't like quite a bunk bed, but it's like sort of raised a little bit so you could have like a desk and stuff underneath. I feel like they were dead popular in the early noughties. I had one of those, and it initially had like a wooden, like it's made out of wood, but then it had like a plastic beam along the edge so that it was like not scratchy and not sanded and like so it was safe, you know. But I had this bed for like years and years, so eventually that came off. And one of my favourite things to do in the whole entire world was just press my teeth into the wood. I would just lay in bed so that like my face was like level with the edge of the bed, and I'd just sort of like gnaw at it like a beaver or something. I wasn't eating it. If bits got in my mouth, I actively didn't like that. That was not what I was going for at all. I just liked to like gnaw at it and press my teeth into it and stim with it essentially. It was just like a massive chew stim. And it's one of those things where like I only thought about this again really, really recently, so I haven't looked into like any bitey things. But it is also a thing of like, I want to leave an impression, you know? Like a lot of the bitey stim things I've seen are like chew necklaces and things that are like a silicone-y thing where like eventually they're going to be sort of fucked, but like it should stay good for a while, and I don't want that. I want to be able to like sink my teeth into it. And I think realistically maybe I'm best off looking for like some sort of like edible putty or something. I don't know, but like that was one of the things that of my childhood that like I just really fucking enjoyed doing. I got told off for it all the time because there were just like straight up like gnaw marks in the side of my bed that were like very fucking noticeable. But I just the feel of my teeth sinking into that wood was like heaven. I loved it so much. Now the next three I think are all like sort of seeking the same sensory thing but in different sort of ways. So the first one is those ankle hoop skip things. I might need to insert a picture. You've got a ring and there's like string or a bit of plastic and then a ball attached, and you put it on one ankle and like spin it and jump and skip over it. I had one as a kid. Fucking loved it. It was one of my favourite things I owned. I was never very good at like skipping with a skipping rope. At some point my hands would go out of sync and my feet would go out of sync. I couldn't fucking do it, and then everyone would laugh at me for not being able to skip, and it was like quite a thing for me as a kid. So getting that and being able to just like, that's the thing, is that was what it was, because you're just lifting one foot and like making the other spin. It just had this like sort of movement to it, and I would just stand outside and do it for fucking hours. I loved it. You just had to get into the right motion for like you just got into it and you could go, you were good, and it just completely calmed me down. Like it just absolutely zoned me out. I didn't have to think about anything else while I was doing it. I was just living in the moment, present and good, you know? And I hadn't thought about that for years and years and years and years. And then my last housemate had a weighted hula hoop, and I've never been able to hula hoop in my fucking life. There were so many like kids parties and stuff I went to when I was little where there'd be like some sort of hula hoop competition, and I could not fucking do it. Like I hundreds and hundreds of moments of my childhood memories where I like had the hula hoop and was like, this is gonna be the time, guys. I'd throw it and I'd like try and do my body, and it just wouldn't fucking move. Like just fell straight to the floor. And I did ask my housemate if I could use the hula hoop, and they said yes, although frankly I'm sure if you asked them now they'd be like, oh my god, I didn't say that. But they said I could, so I started just fucking around with it every now and again when they were in work. And oh my god, and again, I loved it. That is going to be my adult thing. I need to order myself a weighted hula hoop, and stop being so anxious about doing it outside somewhere because I don't have fucking space for it in this house. But like, I think, to be fair, it's just that I've lost weight and like my body moves differently now. Like my hips actually keep it up and there's like a whole bunch of shit to it. But just like the physical feeling of I just need to get into this motion and just repeat this motion over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I also have a visible, like, visual thing that is happening on my body that I like looking at. Like, it's the best. It's the absolute best. I love it. And don't get me wrong, I do kind of want one of those little foot things again. But I tried to get one at a charity shop ages ago, and I couldn't get the fucking hoop over my foot. I'm too big for it now. So unless I find like an actual adult version of that, I think I am just gonna get a weighted hula hoop. Now, in the similar vein to that, I've talked about this one a bunch online because it was like my big thing for many, many years, and that's swings. Just like chains, seat, you swing back and forth, those swings. Always loved them. I had a swing set as a kid. In Denmark, there was a swing set at my school that I was constantly on when we moved to Ville when I was a teenager. I used to go to the parks to go on the swings. Like, throughout my entire childhood up until I was 16, swings were like a really fucking consistent thing for me. And I just love it. Like, I keep going for walks in the park. Like, not like the kids' park, like the big, like, open, fancy park, and there is like a swing set section. Every time I've been, there's been people on it, but at some point I'm gonna go and there's not gonna be anything on it, and I'm gonna get to go and have a little swing for the first time in years, and it's gonna be fucking great. But like, if I owned a place, if I like had my own house, I would absolutely have a swing set out back if I could. Like, if I had more than just a yard, the motion of going back and forth and the way that like your weight transfers and the wind and the way things sound and the way it can just be your own little fucking bubble, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, it's another one where like, I've got this repeated motion, it feels a certain way, and I can just zone the fuck out for hours and not have to think about a single thing, or just like fully like enter into my own little mind world and like think about my special interests and stuff. Like, it's just the best. I just really, really fucking love it. And the other one's one that I've been like reminded of really recently, which is trampolining. And it was, I think I was maybe like 7 or 8 when we first got a trampoline, and it was like a big fucking deal. So we all had to take it in turns, and there was always somebody on it and everything. So for a long time I didn't think that I liked trampolines at all. And being a fat kid, everyone was like, oh, look how far down it goes. Like, people were fucking mean, essentially. But then when we moved to Denmark, eventually the kid next door got a trampoline that got put in our garden for us to share as my birthday present. It wasn't mine. He had fucking like rule over it, but whatever. He got real bored of it real fucking fast, so it did basically become mine. And I was on that bitch for like 2 hours every single night after school, just up and down, maybe put a bit of music on, just jumping up and down. And I know my parents thought it was weird, I know neighbours thought it was weird. There's just something about it where I can just, again, it's minimal body movement, but something is happening to my body, you know? Like, it doesn't take all that much effort to just go up and down, but like all of the feelings of it and the way that like my body does it, and like it just becomes such a bubble. Like, I know I keep using that term, but it is the kind of thing where like it does feel like everything else just becomes a little bit muted and easier to deal with. And I don't have to deal with it. It's not there. It's outside. It doesn't matter anymore. I've got my own little space where this thing's happening, and I'm safe and happy and nice and everything's good. And like, it is those 3 things that like have it feel like that, you know? Like, eating the fucking edge of my bed and the other things I'm gonna talk about don't feel like quite the same sort of thing, where it is like a full like body mind stim connection. So a very different one is any smelly stationery as a kid. I was fucking obsessed with. I didn't get to have it an awful lot because it was normally more expensive than like the cheap stuff, but every now and again when I'd get like the erasers that smelt like different vegetables. Everyone else in my class got the fucking fruit ones because they're cherries and strawberries, and I got the ones that were like potato and carrot and broccoli, and they did smell kind of rank, but like it was such a strong smell that like, I'm talking I was maybe like 6, 7, 8 years old here, and like it was one of those where I'd be sat in class and I'd be really struggling to focus. I'd look down and see my like weird smelling rubber and pick it up and just hold it like this. And just being able to smell it and have that scent made it so much easier to like focus and be present in the moment and actually like do what I was supposed to be doing. And there were a bunch of times that I got told off because I think teachers thought I was like trying to shove it up my nose or eat it, or like general kid things, you know? But like I just needed to be able to smell it and like center myself and regulate myself a bit. And then I was like, okay, I can listen to the teacher again. I can take these notes. Yeah, like I can do my school now. There were multiple times that I got caught with like fucking gel pen mustaches because I'd just been like sniffing the fucking pen as close as I could. But it was such like a minimal, easy, simple thing that I could do in school, which I found to be such like an overwhelming environment and made me so fucking anxious. And I could just have a little whiff of one of my little pens and my little rubbers, and all of a sudden it's easier to deal with again, you know? And this is one that I've like not even like gone back to as an adult, but just like brought into my adult years. I was initially really into incense when I was like 16 when I first moved out, and then I was like, I don't know, I just having all this smoke about doesn't actually, I feel a way about that. But I always have room sprays, I always have candles. It's really important to me that my environment smells a certain way and that I'm able to change the way that my environment smells when it stops working for me. But as a kid, I had like such like specific things that would bring me comfort to smell, and it was mostly stationery, and I would just like take it about everywhere with me to just have a little whiff when I needed to. And finally was one that was a little bit more of like almost ritualistic, which is I would get a green apple. It had to be a green apple. It had to be perfectly round. It couldn't be one of these ones that has like a bump on one side. It had to be the most perfect looking green apple you've ever seen. Ideally with the little yellow dots, they were the best. And I would polish it and polish it and polish it. Bitch couldn't have a single bruise. It had to be the perfect apple. And then we had like these certain shaped glasses when I was a kid, and it would need to be filled with milk until there was like exactly that much at the top. Like there was a little, if you really focus on the glass, there was like lines every like inch or so up, and it had to be filled up to like the second line. It had to be absolutely perfect. And then what I did was I would take the biggest bite I could out of the apple, and that was a bit too bitter, a bit too much. It wasn't very nice. I just got it down as fast as I could so we could get to the good bit, which was when I'd start dipping the bits that I've bitten into the milk and then bite it as quickly as I could to get as much of the milk still on the apple, and then eat that. And I would do like the entire apple like that. And then obviously because I've been having the milk on the apple, that makes the milk go down. So with the last bit of milk that was left, I would just keep dipping the core in and sucking the milk off it with the apple flavour until the milk was gone and I just had my apple core. And that, like, I don't fucking know. I don't know how it came around. It was just something that I did. Like, pretty much any time we had good green apples when I was a kid. And it was always nighttime. It was always when like everyone else was in the living room and I was left to just do whatever the fuck I wanted. And I'd just be like, it's apple and milk time. And it was just this little like ritual that I had that just felt so nice and comfortable and made me happy, and I really fucking enjoyed it. And it's one of those things where I'm kind of sad that I don't drink milk anymore, because it wouldn't work with the plant milk. It has to be like, it wasn't even like nice cow's milk. I think we got like, frankly, whatever milk's the cheapest is the one we got as a kid that isn't in like the cardboard cartons. My mum refused that because she had to have that as a kid. But whatever was like cheapest in the plastic cartons is what we had, and it has to be that kind of milk. I wouldn't even bother with doing it with plant milk, even though there's a bunch of plant milks that I like. It has to be that milk. And it's one of those things that I don't want to say I've like necessarily carried it on into adulthood, but I also, you know, like I am the kind of adult that likes olives and red wine and things like that. Like I do like flavours that aren't great, I suppose. I don't know. Like when I'm eating olives and things that have like a very strong like sensory like flavour for me, like that's the thing, is some flavours are sensory and some flavours aren't. It's the ones that like, I mean, that makes complete sense actually now I've said it. Obviously like some things are sour and bitter in the ways that other things aren't. But like, I don't know, it's just such a specific thing that like it just had to be exactly like that, and I never wavered from it. And there were so many times that I'd see the green apples and be like, it's apple time, and then all of them would have like some tiny bruise, and I'd be like, I can't have my fucking apple time. It's the worst thing in the world. But yeah, that's all I had to share today. They're some of my childhood sensory seeking things that I did. There were definitely a bunch more, but they're the ones that are like really, really obvious to me, and the ones that I do think that I'm sort of like seeking similar versions of in adulthood. And a lot of the times when like I'm feeling a bit dysregulated, a bit anxious, it's those types of things that I am realistically looking for, and should probably start doing more often when I can, in ways that I can, you know. And as much as I say like the adult version, I don't care if I'm doing like a kid thing. It's the adult version because I'm an adult now. That's all there is to it. So yeah, if you've got any like little things from your childhood that you did that are similar, that you've managed to like keep hold of if you've gone back to them in adulthood and figured out ways to do them as a grown up, like any of that kind of stuff. I would love to hear about in the comments if you wanted to let me know. I post here on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays, so if you wanted to like and subscribe and do the stuff here, that would be really cool. I do really enjoy that. If you want to see me over in other places, I will also have linked down below my TikTok, my Instagram and my Blue Sky account. And if you want to get early content and join the Discord, you can head over to my Patreon and become a member there. And finally, I also have a Ko-fi account if you wanted to like send me a little bit of financial support. You don't have to, it's all good. Everything's fine, there's no pressure. And I'm gonna go now. So whoever you are, wherever you are, if you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I will see you again in a couple of days.